Filthy Reflection coming at you with a walkthrough of the remix that I've done for James Hype Be Mine submission. So let's start at the top, sort of. Let's start at the top. So not really much on my master, if I'm honest. Got an EQ, just a few slight movements, nothing major. And as a trick that I learnt from James Hype, get some crisp on, some saturation on the mix bus as well. Then I've got my clip shifter, which I put this on everything. I have to admit, every single thing has a clip shifter on it. Then we've got a shaper box, just so I can see the waveform really. A utility, which actually isn't doing anything on this particular project, and then I've got this, and I absolutely swear by this plugin. You can A/B, so you can put a reference track or a couple of reference tracks in here, and then you can A/B them to see what it sounds like, and of course you can match the levels there. Spectrum, correlation, stereo image, which is always quite helpful. I always find with the stereo imaging, I always either overdo it slightly or underdo it, and looking at this you can instantly see where you've gone wrong, and it makes it so much simpler just to find that one element that is causing you the problem. Dynamics, and then of course your loudness. I always set my target is -6 LUFS, so I usually hit somewhere around sort of 5 to 6, -5 to 6. That's what I usually aim for when I'm mixing. When I'm making a track, I usually aim for sort of like 10 to 7, -10, -7, somewhere around there, and I give it that extra little push. Then the next one down, we have the mix bus, which actually doesn't have a lot on anymore because I'm just using my master instead, and the mix bus is redundant. But I do have a glue compressor on here and a utility, and there's something happening on the gain here. So as you go through, again there is just a few little in the build up, so I'm just taking the edge off just slightly, and sometimes in the drop, if it's just not quite hitting hard enough, I will just bring that level down a little bit through the drop. And of course if I want to make a bit of a gap somewhere, then I'll add that in somewhere, which I have done on this particular track. Then we move down to yet another group, which is the kick and bass group. So let's light those up. So this is not just bass, this is sub bass. So you've got the sub bass and the kick working together. I'm using the kick from Nexus, bit of EQ, so I'm dropping a little bit here, which was conflicting with the sub a little bit, and then I've got a little bit extra here. Pulled some of this out because it was just making quite a harsh noise that I wasn't really happy with in this area, so pulled that off, and then just got rid of the highs a little bit. There's a nice click in the kick already, so I didn't really need all that end bit going on. And of course got a clip shifter once again, as always. This I don't believe is actually doing anything, but there's always a shaper box on there just in case I want to trim anything anywhere. And then of course you've got your utility, and I have altered the gain on here, and I've done it a bit backwards because I can't get out of the habit of just automating this volume. I'm trying to move myself over to do a utility all the time, but it's an old habit. And then obviously that's just hit the bass on mono, kick on mono. Same with the sub bass, that's on mono, and I've got some automation going on the sub bass as well, so it's a lot quieter somewhere. That's already there. So this is the side chain, I believe. And utility, here we go. Oh, and there's the gain, so it's a little bit quieter in the intro. And this is obviously the shaper box side chain. I don't want any side chain in the intro. So that gives us this. And then we move on to this kick, which is with a fuck ton of reverb, because why not? And on here, like, it's got reverb and EQ. That's pretty much nice and straightforward, really. Then we move on to and this will be automated all the way through with something going on, I expect. No, it actually isn't. That makes a change. Normally it is. Oh, there we are. There it is. In actual fact, there is a couple of mistakes in my automation in this, but I left it because if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? I'm sure you can see the issues with that, but never mind. It's fine. It works, and I like it. It's all good. Then we move on to this one. Obviously very quiet right on the start. You've got absolutely no volume on it at all. And then you start hearing it coming. It's just a bit of texture in the background that you can notice building up towards the end of the build up, and I do it also in the drops as well. On this one it's just EQ, nothing special. And then we get down to this, which I've overdone this ever so slightly because I've got a delay on it, and I've overdone the delay on every single one, and I just couldn't be bothered to go back and fix it when I was making the remix. I just wanted to get it done as quickly as possible, mainly because I didn't know when the cut-off date was, so I just sort of smashed it out and probably rushed it really, but never mind. Such is life. Now sometimes that could do with being just the one hit and that's it, but every single one hits like with the delay on. EQ, reverb, and it's just a sound sample, so that's all good. And then we got this one. Bit of white noise. Now this hits differently all the way through. Lost it now. So as you can see, that one just comes down like that, but this one lasts a little bit longer, and there's different variations all the way through, sort of. And I even have, I think you can see it on this one. Nope. Oh, there we go. You see it on this one. I give it a bit of a flick up, so there's just another added texture in there as well, and I do that in this one as well a couple of times. So there's my white noise. Then a nice little cheat. Nice simple hats. We've got a little bit of shaper box on there, bit of side chain, EQ, reverb. And I put the side chain on after the reverb, so it gives it a nice full hit, but at the same time doesn't flood the whole track with reverb. Then we move down to just a nice simple plucky bass. Simple EQ going on here. I think I've just chopped off some of the end, but I wanted to keep some of this mid-range in, but there is this area is going to be filled up later on down through the track with some higher stuff, and there is still quite a lot of sub in here, but we are side chaining that out a little bit so it doesn't lose its thickness. Bit of saturation going on, another clip shifter obviously. And this is the shape I'm using, and obviously I leave a bit of a gap here before the kick, so you got some sort of pre-side chain, so you get that nice gap before the kick hits, so it hits even harder, in theory. Yeah, then we just got the bass that's monoed at a frequency. Then we have the next bus, which is basically everything else. So I've managed to keep the bass and the sub bass and kick separate. Then I've kept the bass separate, and then everything else is on its own. As you can see, all but kick I've called it, because you know, it makes more sense to me than, I don't know why. And everything within here is also within a group somewhere along the line as well. So then we've got this, we'll add this into the mix. So we're not getting any of this low end in, and we've got some of this side chained as well, so it's this sort of sound that's coming through, but keeping that in side chained so that it's still a nice thick sound. Sounds quite prominent there, but once you get the rest of the mix in, it sort of disappears. Nothing on these two tracks, they were things I was playing with and never ended up with anything. And then just a shaker, nothing special. Bit of reverb on it, nice bit of width on it as well, and of course got some side chain going on as well. And then here we got an extra little noise, which is you know, a bit of ear candy, something that you don't actually hear, but if you take it away, you notice. And that repeats throughout, just a bit of reverb, or a substantial amount of reverb actually, and EQ on that. Let me move down to this. Absolutely nothing special about that. A little bit of reverb, some EQ and some width. And this here is nice snare. And to be honest, once it's in the actual track, I don't bother with the snare. I just use it for a little fill like there. That's it. Then it's used, it's heard, and you're not overdoing it all the time. A nice layer there that has been side chained. We're hitting this sort of area again, and I'm pulling this out because there's a bit of a hole in the mix. So I'm pulling that out just to sit that into position and whack the volume down low so it pokes through that bit nicely but doesn't lose the thickness of the sound. We've got some automation going on the gain here, and I have monoed like up to 500 Hertz, so make sure it's all good. Clip shifter, and then we've got a side chaining, and it's just opening on this first bit, so when the kick hits, a little tiny bit of a gap, and then it fades in to fill the gap in between the bass and the kick, since it's an offbeat bass, but it doesn't get in the way of the sub bass. Then it should pull the mix quite tight then. This one here is only a sort of pad sleed sort of sound in the breakdown, in the intro only. And this one's similar sound, and we've got more of this higher frequencies going on instead, lots of width on it, monoed the bass at 500, another clip shifter, and we've got some weird stuff going on with the side chaining. So as the kick hits, you're just going to get a little bit of it that you just makes the kick a bit crispy, and then it drops for the bass to start hitting in, and gives it a bit of a gap almost before that bass comes in here, and then it fades up just to give the end of the plucky bass a nice little sort of ending. So far we are here. So let's move down to this one, and this is where we can find the vocal. I found this vocal really strange because it's when you listen to it as a full vocal, that word there's like about 4 billion words fit into one beat, and it was like, it really threw me. Happens again. Yeah, that bit there. And there's a few bits like that. It just felt like it doesn't work, but at the same time, it's a really, really good vocal. It really does work well. But I've chopped the shit out of it anyway, and there's only like 2 occasions here that you actually hear it. So you hear it in the first sort of build-up breakdown, and then you hear it in the second breakdown. And then I go on to doing all sorts of weird stuff with it in the build-up, so that you hear lots of things. I did make a couple of mistakes. There was like, this one probably shouldn't be there, and I probably should have faded these out a little bit with some automation. But apart from that, it's all good. Let's have a quick listen to the build-up. See, this one, it probably shouldn't have been there, and I probably should have taken the volume out of these a little bit, but never mind, it is what it is. And here we go, we got a bit of a riser noise here. Obviously I pulled this out of the vocal, add loads of reverb, record it, then just chop it down and reverse it. And there we are, you've got a nice little riser that's still on point with the rest of the track, so it's not just some crappy old sample that you've dragged in from somewhere. It actually works with the vocal and sounds like a proper track, you know. So we've got down quite far. This is the next bus, which was the lead bus, but it's basically just layers. So let's come into this one. We have got absolutely nothing going on here. Just a very small amount of something going on in the background, and if we look, a bit of a weird shape, but it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. And there obviously is some automation going on here as well. Look. So that's just rising up through, so you don't even notice it to start with. You got this, just a little bit of extra noise really. If we look, it's hitting on the kick, hitting on the kick, hitting on the kick. So it's just giving a nice crisp edge, which is probably another reason why I didn't need any of the click in the bass, because I've already got some noise coming down here from it, which works well. I expect this will have some, not too bad, it's just quite a big gap really, and then of course we've got a nice bit of gap here as well. And then we got this one. You literally cannot hear this in the track at all, but again, it's one of those things, if you take it out you'll notice it instantly. instantly you notice that's gone, but you were listening to the actual track, there's no way you think, oh, there's an ARP in there. And my last mistake was I forgot about this. Now I put this in a few times just to give a little bit of something extra, and I normally change the sound to work with the track. But to be honest, it was getting to about 3 o'clock in the morning and I was a bit tired. So I completely ignored it and just bounced it out anyway. Which in the mix, it doesn't sound great if I'm being honest. But like I said, it's done now. But that is everything that I've done in the James Hype Be Mine remix submission. So there we are, the full mix. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.